I am joined now by the incomparable George Takei, actor, activist, Twitter celebrity, author of today's Velshi Band Book Club feature, the graphic memoir, They Called Us Enemy. George, great to see you. I have followed everything you do for a long time. I have spent some time celebrating the young activists who seem to be taking the lead in our politics today. I celebrate you too, but you're not a young activist. And I'm very curious about what part of your life triggered your activism.
I think I was shaped by the internment. I was too young to really understand it. Most of it was terrorizing and confusing. But when I became a teenager out of the camps and asking questions about our imprisonment, I had many after-dinner conversations with my father. And I realize now what an exceptional Japanese-American father of that generation he was. He did discuss the internment with me. He was the block manager in both camps that we were in. He spoke English and Japanese fluently, so he was able to communicate with the immigrant generation as well as the American-born English-speaking generation. So he knew all of the background and the details, and he shared with me his personal anguish and rage and his sense of impotence and how painful that was for him. But he said to me, and he wanted his children to know the larger picture. He said, we are living in a democracy. The ideals of democracy are noble ideals: equal justice, due process. When you're arrested, you have the right to know why you're arrested, the charges. And then we have the right to challenge those charges in a court of law, where the accuser has to produce the evidence to back him up. And if he does have the evidence, then there's punishment. If he doesn't have the evidence, no arrest. In our case, there was no charge, therefore no trial. Simply because we looked like this, we were imprisoned. And my father said, that's both the strength and the weakness of our democracy. People are fallible human beings. We make mistakes. Even the great President Franklin Roosevelt, he was an admirer of his in the 30s when the country was in the depth of a crushing economic depression. Unemployed, homeless, penniless, hungry, and lining up in lines that went up out for miles for a bowl of soup. The spirit of the people was broken, and he said to them, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. But when Pearl Harbor was bombed, he realized that he had the entire West Coast as equally as Pearl Harbor, open, vacant, and vulnerable to attack. And he became fearful. And he signed Executive Order 9066, which ordered the traditional number is 120,000, but now with further research, the number is over 125,000. Wow. And I quote 125,000.
And one thing you said to me, you corrected something I said, because I was talking about them as Japanese internment camps, and you think it's important, and this is why we have these discussions, to say they were American internment camps. There were Americans who were interned by the American government, guarded by American soldiers, ordered there by the American president.
Exactly. We were in a Japanese-American internment camp. Yeah. That, the operative word is American.
Right.
And we've been saying it for 80 years now, Japanese internment camp, and that's become accepted. So I always correct people on their grammar. Japanese internment camps were run by the government of Japan. We're Americans in an American internment camp right here in the United States. We were in the swamps of Arkansas and then moved from there to a segregation camp for disloyals. And that was determined by one of the clumsiest loyalty questionnaire, which had two key questions.
Let me read them to you. The two key questions were, Are you willing to serve in the armed forces of the United States on combat duty wherever ordered? And will you swear unqualified allegiance to the United States of America and faithfully defend the United States from any or all attack by foreign or domestic forces, and forswear any form of allegiance or obedience to the Japanese emperor or any other foreign government, power, or organization? Those are the two questions.
That was put together by incompetence. In the chaos and confusion of war, incompetence got lodged in the bureaucracy. And it was clearly those incompetents that were assigned. For example, question 27, it's simple enough sounding, but there are many complexities to it. My parents had 3 very young children. I was 5, my brother was 4, my baby sister was an infant in a cradle. They were being asked to abandon their children with no other provisions for them in a barbed wire prison camp and bear arms to defend the nation that's holding their children prisoner. It was preposterous and nonsensical. They answered that question honestly, truthfully, with no. The other loyalty questionnaire was one sentence with 2 conflicting ideas. Will you swear your loyalty to the United States of America and forswear your loyalty to the Emperor of Japan? The word forswear assumes that we had an inborn racial blood loyalty to the emperor. We're Americans. We're born here.
This is the place to which you have your fealty.
And for the government to assume that we had some loyalty to the emperor was insulting. So if you answered no to that loyalty to the emperor question, that no applied to the first part of the very same sentence. There was no period separating 2 ideas. And so that meant that you will not swear loyalty to the United States. Some people strongly felt, despite the nonsense, that they wanted to answer that yes. But if you answered yes to the first part of that question,
then you are assumed to have been guilty of the second part.
You're confessing.
You're confessing that you're loyal to the Japanese emperor.
Exactly.
So one of the interesting things about your book is that there's a moment in the book in which you say, as a teenager, I became curious about the internment camps. I searched all my civics books and history books, but there was nothing about the internment of Japanese Americans. This is what Nicole Hannah-Jones was talking about when she wrote the 1619 Project. You were trying to learn and add to the corpus of our knowledge about American history, American democracy, and its failings to make us better. And now you're part of the problem, according to the Central York, Pennsylvania School District. You are CRT, and you're indoctrinating our youth with crazy things.
And that's when 2021 is when all this book banning craze started. And this is like having politicians decide without doctors or medical people on banning abortion. It's politicians riding over librarians and teachers, people who are dealing with the issue. The library books have all been vetted by a review board made up of teachers and librarians and teachers. And yet now politicians want to get in on the act. And in 2021 was when that surge began. And you use the York, Pennsylvania. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, I did speak at Penn State in York, Pennsylvania. And I spoke in a 1,500-seat theater. It was cram full. A good number were Star Trek fans.
Of course.
And they told me about the opposition that they took to their legislature trying to ban They Called Us Enemy. The book came out in 2019, and many people had already read the book. And so that they were shamed into revising.
Doing it. George, we could talk for a long time. It is a real privilege to meet you in real life. Thank you for your activism. We didn't even get to start to talk about your LGBTQ plus activism. We'll do that again, though, and the fact that after you spoke, the Indianapolis Star reported that the school library book ban is heading to the governor for signature.
And on the morning that this was published, the governor signed it.
Yeah. We have much more to do on this front. Thank you for being with us today.
Great to be here.
The author and activist of the graphic memoir called They Called Us Enemy, George Takei.